Welcome to the webinar, everyone. I do apologize for last week, but we had our little national event here in Frisco, Texas that went off amazingly. I'd love to get a chance to see everyone, talk to everyone, talk about nutrition, health, and wellness, and how ID Life is helping lead that movement. Today's topic is how to read a nutrition facts label. And every now and then when you get ready to do a presentation, you go into it thinking you're going to do one thing, and as you start to prepare the presentation, you find that you get passionate about something because it makes you a little upset. And this one did just that. I mean, when we dive into this, which we're about to do, I promise. I'm just giving everyone an opportunity to kind of jump on. But when you dive into this topic, you can't help but get upset because it almost appears as if these nutritional labels were designed to deceive and confuse. So let's kind of jump in and find out where we are. You would think that it would be this simple. If you want to know what something is, if you want to know what it's going to do for you, if you want to know what the benefits are going to be, you just turn over the bottle and read it. And it should be that simple, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. In fact, most of the times it looks something like this. And I love this picture because it is a generational picture showing that it does not matter what age, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter when you went to school. The fact is we're all confused. And we're all confused on what the nutrition facts label is, what it means, what it says, what we can believe, what we have to watch out for. What we want to do today is we want to provide you some information. We want to provide you some of that stuff that we didn't get in school. We want to give you the tools necessary so that when you turn over a label, you have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on. So the whole idea behind today is we're going to get a little informed. That's the whole concept. That's what we're going to do. So get your pen and paper ready because we're going to go through some things that you may already know. And if you do, great. And if you don't feel bad because 98% of the population doesn't understand it either. Let's start with why you don't understand it. See, in the United States, we still teach in school the empirical system. Now, we mention the metric system. We tell people what it is, but we don't really teach it. Now, why in a nutritional facts label reading webinar would I be talking about the empirical system versus the metric system? Well, think about it. Everything on the back of a nutritional facts panel is in the metric system. And everything that we're taught in school, everything that we do in life, everything that we do in the United States from yards, inches, miles, etc., is all done in the empirical system. So we teach you how to read one thing, but we label our food in a different system. Well, sometimes we believe we're the greatest country, and we are, but sometimes we get defensive about why we choose to do certain things, and the empirical system is one of those. But before we get defensive, before I get all the emails and the text messages and the Facebook messages and everything else about why are you talking bad about the empirical system? It's a system of the United States. Let's look at it a little bit deeper. This is a comparison, just in case you're wondering. You notice on the left is the empirical system. It's kind of what they call the arbitrary retarded roller coaster. 12 inches is a foot, 3 feet is a yard, 1,760, yards to a mile, 16 ounces to a pound. I mean, trying to remember all of this, is insane. Of course, then you get to the metric system and everything's based upon 1,000. It really is that simple, and all the way down to how we do, the month, the day, and the year. And the reason why the rest of the world does it day, month, year, if you can think about it, is that's the way that it builds out. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. It's not that I'm bashing the empirical system, because it is the system of which I was taught, and it's the one that I have, put in my memory banks. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why that nutritional facts panel is the way that it is, and usually it kind of leaves us like this. We read the back of that label and we're kind of like, what does this mean? Well, then you jump in and you say, okay, well, there has to be something out there. There has to be some type of guide, and in fact, there is. The FDA has actually put out a guide. This is the website. You can go to it. This is an image of kind of what they're showing you that's going on. And they basically try to teach you how to read a nutrition facts panel. Now, what's interesting is this website is very robust. I mean, it has a lot of information in it. And what's interesting is why is it necessary? Because see, if nutrition facts panel were easy to read, that website would not be needed. But the reality is it is. It absolutely is needed. But unfortunately, even if you follow all the guidelines and you look at everything, it still leaves you with that same look on your face. What does this mean? How can I use this? What can I do with it? Well, the next thing you probably fall into is one of these wonderful little things. You find you a great calculator that's going to convert all this stuff to you. And as you're getting ready to cook and you're reading recipes and everything else, you're trying to convert things and you're trying to determine what happens if I eat this many grams. Does that mean how many servings? How many teaspoons is that? It's a nightmare. Again, it leaves us looking like this. So we're confused. We don't really know what we're doing. We and like I said in the beginning, it's almost as if it was intentional. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist here. But the reality is, we all are confused. We all have this effect. So don't feel bad. We're all there. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to school. We're going to teach you how to look at a label and have some general understanding. Now, this by no means, to prepare you, this by no means is going to give you everything you need to know. It just won't. But it will give you a basic understanding of the nuts and bolts of a nutritional label that you need to understand and what it's doing to you and the decisions that you're making and the choices that you're making in the grocery store and in the food aisle and at restaurants, etc., and what effects those are having. So let's jump in. Let's start out with serving size. Guys, I cannot tell you enough, this is where a majority of the problem is, right here. See, we grab something that appears to us to be a single serve. We know that it's a single serve. We know that every time we grab this thing, we're going to eat the whole thing. We're going to drink the whole thing. It just is what it is, and that's where we go. And the first thing we do is we turn it over and say, oh, 200 calories. Great, let's move on. We don't understand that 200 calories is great, except for that's for one serving, and the thing that we just grabbed that we always consume in one serving is actually 2.5 servings on the nutritional facts label. Or it's labeled like this, it's a half a cup. Doesn't really say anything else, just says it's a half cup serving size. You have to turn it over to the front to find out that there's 3.5 cups in the bag itself. So we start out with serving size. Let me show you a little example, because this is the serving size of the average fast food meal in the United States in the 1950s versus now. See, in the 1950s, the one on the left was a serving size. That was a single serving. That was what a Coke, a hamburger, and French fries looked like in the 1950s. Today, it's much, much different. And yes, you can see the little images of people, and they go from thin to heavy. There is a reason, and serving size is a big component to that. Now, the good news is, in July of 2018, we're going to get a brand new label in the United States. Now, I will tell you that ID Life is already converting all of its labels to this new label now, because we see this as a very positive thing. So we're already converting over there. But I want to highlight a few things for you on this new label that are intended to make these things easier to understand and easier to read. Starts out with the serving sizes, if you notice in the upper part, are going to be larger and bolder so that you can see those. It's also going to increase the calorie number so that it's very legible. It's going to update the daily value percentage, and we'll talk about more of that later. It's going to add this brand new category called added sugars, and man, are we going to talk about that a little bit later. It's also going to change the nutrients required to be labeled, and it's going to also change the amounts declared. So there could be the same exact formula, same exact everything on the old label versus the new label, and the percentages will actually change. That's right. Based upon these new rules, these new laws, there will in fact be some changes in the percentages that you see, even though the formula itself has not changed. So for instance, one of the brand new labels that ID Life has come out on its protein bar already shows it's in compliance with this new rule. You can see everything there from the added sugars being 0 to the calories being easily to be able to see. You can see the serving size is 1 bar. It has the grams in it. All of that is right there. So this conversion is already taking place at ID Life, but I want to let you know that you do have this brand new thing. Now this is a side-by-side comparison of the old versus the new to give you a better understanding of what these new labels are going to look like. So yes, it's going to jump off of you. Now, one of the things you do need to know is that calories from fat that is on the left-hand side. If you see the calories there, it says 230 on the left, and next to it says calories from fat. Calories from fat is actually going to go away. It's in essence kind of a useless number. It's not needed according to the labeling rules and guidelines. So they're going to take that away, and instead they're going to add some other things that are supposed to help the consumer be more knowledgeable when they're making these decisions. But obviously, the one that is really going to be added is that added sugars, because if you look on the left-hand side, you see 1 gram of sugar, and then all of a sudden on the new label, same exact formula, nothing has changed. There's now 12 grams of sugar, 10 of which is added. So that's right, guys. You're actually for the first time going to get an opportunity to see how much sugar is really in the food that you're eating. For all of you diabetics out there or pre-diabetics, this is going to be a serious wake-up call. It's really going to give you the information that you need to make informed choices. One of the other changes that is being made is directly related to serving sizes, because now what they're saying is they want the serving sizes to accurately reflect reality. They want them to actually show you what a true serving size is. So if you're going to sit down with something that you know is a single serving, that it's a single serving. And that the example that they use is this pints of ice cream. Now, what's interesting to me about this is the words they're using. So now serving sizes will be more realistic to reflect how much people typically eat at one time. And what they're showing is this pint from 4 servings currently to 3 servings to the next one. Well, realistically, I mean, I just this was an opportunity to do something the right way, and I just don't know, maybe it's the lobbying, I don't know, but it just really didn't go far enough, because I don't know about you, but in my house, you grab one of these, that's considered a single serve. That looks like a single serve, and it acts like a single serve, and a lot of times it is a single serve because it fits in your hand, right? I mean, I'm not the only one here. Trust me, I know that I have some people out there that are thinking the same thing I am. But let's get a little bit deeper on this one. Because see, when you turn this wonderful thing over, it says the serving size per container is 3.5. It says the calories are 280. When you actually do the math, that 1 pint is 980 calories, 63 grams of fat, 38.5 of saturated, 77 grams of sugar, or 19.25 servings. Obviously, I chose ice cream because it's a bit extreme. But this one little pint, even under the new rules, is going to have this wonderful thing called serving sizes that are supposed to be realistic. And unfortunately, realism is not realism, because what something is typically a single serve, at least is, in my household, it becomes 3.5 now instead of 4. Basically, what they're telling us, we need a calculator. If you want to really know what the food is doing to you, learn what this app is on your phone, pull it out, and be able to do the calculation of 3.5 times whatever the numbers are that you see on calories, fats, sugars, salts, etc., because that's the true value and the nature of what it is you're consuming. So be cognizant of serving size, understand that it's there, understand that even though we have some new rules and guidelines that are going into effect summer of next year, they still aren't necessarily completely there to keep you from being a little bit confused there. Let's talk about calories. This is that one where everybody jumps to every January. You have heard prior presentations that we have made that calorie counting doesn't work. But let's kind of jump in and talk about something on the calorie side. But before I go into calories, I need to show you this percentage daily value, because that is also changing on the new label. It's now based upon a 2,000 calorie diet. And you need to know that, because if you consume more than 2,000 calories a day, what that means is those percentages, that the percentage of your daily value should actually go down. If you consume less than 2,000 calories, that percentage daily value should go up. So that's right, especially ladies and children. If you are looking at a label and it says that you're consuming 50% of your daily value, realize that's based upon a 2,000 calorie diet. If your normal calorie consumption is in the 16, 17, 1,800 calorie range, that number is actually much greater than 50%. So be real careful if you're going to rely on that percentage daily value as an indicator of how much you're actually consuming in that particular category. That's a place where people do get confused. So I want to make sure that I point that out to folks. What is a calorie? I always love this visual. It's those tiny creatures that live in your closet and sew your clothes a little bit tighter every night. The reality is it's the energy that's burned from the food itself. And in calories, unfortunately, when we try to count them, we fail. 98% of diets fail. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we're counting our calories and we're trying to count. The reality is we should understand the quality of our calories. There's a big difference between the quality of a calorie and the quantity of a calorie. Or the picture on the left is 200 calories of spinach. It's 870 grams of spinach. I mean, I'm not sure any person could actually sit down and eat all that. On the right hand side is half of a donut, 49 grams, 200 calories. You could eat on the left and probably get very well full before you could ever get to the end, and on the right, you're looking for the other half of the donut. We need to understand there's a big difference between quantity versus quality, and focus on quality. Stop counting numbers. It just doesn't work. It's been proven. Because when you focus on numbers, this is what happens to you. It gets confusing. It's what did I do? What did I try to do? I will tell you this, people that count calories usually miss the count by as much as 30 to 40%. That's right. They fail to count 30 to 40% of the calories they actually consume. And it's not intentional. A lot of it has to do with the fact that what they're consuming and they believe to be a single serve is actually 2 or sometimes 2.5 or 3. Sometimes they forget to add things that they use. Ketchup being a prime example, barbecue sauce, salad dressing is a huge one. I mean, you take a perfectly healthy salad and you put the dressing on it and it turns into just a caloric abomination. The reality is this. We can keep counting calories if we want to. And the reality, if we focus on a healthy diet and lifestyle, making better quality choices like the guy on the left, we're going to have the body on the left. If we keep counting calories, and the whole thing about counting calories, what that allows us to do is justify our decisions to eat things that we know aren't necessarily good for us in certain quantities. When we do that, we get the body on the right. So, just be aware of that when you're doing this. Let's talk about fat. Unfortunately, fat in this country is still got a bad reputation. And I want to go into that a little bit because there's basically 3 fats that we need to focus on. And that is the total fats, the saturated fats, and the trans fats. But before then, I found this label. I mean, seriously, 5 crackers is a serving. There's 28 servings in this cracker box because 5 crackers is. Have any of you ever stopped at 5 crackers? It's this type of stuff that you have to watch out for. I want to make sure people are understanding that they understand the importance of being educated. We cannot rely on others and blame others for our own health. We have to take control of our decisions. We, each one of us individually, has our own hand-to-mouth disease. Number 1 killer in this country is hand-to-mouth disease. What do I mean by that? Your hand finding your mouth way too often with the wrong thing. We have to take control of that, and we have to understand that there's these types of labels out there, so asinine as they might be, that say, hey, here's something in a bag that looks like it's a single serve, but hey, just realize 5 of those crackers is what this nutritional label is based upon. You got to take those numbers that I have right here, multiply by 28. So multiply 28 by 80, and you can see how many calories is actually in this box, as well as all of the other things that are in there. So where did this fat concept come from, that fat is evil, fat is the devil, fat is, what makes us fat? Well, it started out with a heart attack. Believe it or not, the former president had a heart attack, and all of a sudden science went crazy to find out, what the relationship was to our diet and heart disease. Well, it came down to 2 camps. You had psychologist Ansel Keys, and you had Dr. John Yudkin. Dr. Yudkin had a novel concept. He basically came up with the theory that sugar was the culprit. And Dr. Keys said, nope, fat is what's making us fat. Fat is what's causing heart disease. Fat is what we need to cut out of our diet. Fat is evil. Well, we now know that Dr. Yudkin was right. sugar is the killer. Sugar is the thing that's going to kill this country. Sugar is a direct result of why 74% of our population is overweight and one-third of our kids are overweight. But Dr. Keyes won the Nobel Prize in medicine. Dr. Yudkin was vilified and basically told that he was a lunatic. And Dr. Yudkin lost the battle. But, history has a way of coming around full circle. And what we found was, in fact, that Dr. Yudkin was right and Ansel Keys not so much. Because there is a difference between good fats and bad fats. See, not all fats are bad. And I don't even like labeling foods as bad. But what I mean by this is there are certain fats that are necessary. Fat is what feeds the brain. Those people that try to completely cut fats out of their diet have a tendency to be a little bit lethargic, have an ability to focus, and deal with some other related issues. But we need to understand the difference between the two. Now, obviously, this would be a great topic for a webinar in and of itself. What's the difference between unsaturated fat, saturated fat, and trans fats? And I'm not going to really go into it in too much detail with you today, but understand this. Unsaturated fats, that's the good fat. That's the stuff that we need. That's the stuff that we want. That's the stuff that feeds our brain, that keeps us cognitively focused and gets us to be able to do the things that we want to do. Saturated fats, those are the things we want to limit. We don't want to eat too many of them. We really got to watch our intake of saturated fats. Trans fats we want to avoid at all costs. Trans fats are those things that have been directly linked to all kinds of nasty diseases, heart disease, stroke, etc. We want to avoid trans fats at all costs. So just know that's your 3 little easy tips on fats. Unsaturated, hey, that's your good stuff. Unsaturated fat, limit as much as you can. Trans fats, eliminate. How about sodium? Now, I'm not going to take for granted the fact that there are people, and yes, you may be one of them, that doesn't understand that sodium is salt. So let's talk about salt intake, because that's what the sodium number is. We're actually going to talk about your salt. Now, why? Well, because the amount that an adult needs daily is about 180 milligrams. That's all they need. Recommended is 1,500. Not really sure why. If all you need is 180, that recommended is 1,500. The upper level of an adult intake should be about 2,300, but the average American is consuming over 3,400 milligrams per day, or more than 2 times the recommended amount. That sodium number that is on that nutrition label is something that you have to watch closely. Again, watch the serving size, watch the sodium number, make sure you're doing your multiplication, using your calculator app, figuring out what's going on. Now, one of the other things that you need to be aware of is all of the facts and circumstances surrounding too much sodium. And I want to focus on a few of them. First one is this. 77% of the salt in our diet comes from processed and prepared foods. It's already in there. 12% is from the natural sources, 6% is added while eating, and 5% added while cooking. So when people say, hey, I'm going to lower my salt in my diet by not adding anything while I'm cooking or while I'm eating it, you've now eliminated 11% of the salt in your diet. Only 11%. The other place, the biggest place where we can have an effect on the amount of sodium that we're consuming is reading the nutritional facts label and determining what's in it, what's on it, and how much we need from it. Look for the lower sodium items. It's just a way that you can do a natural reduction. We have to get the sodium numbers down. Why? Well, because 9 out of 10 Americans consume too much. 9 out of 10. That's 90%. Actually, it's greater than 90%. Are consuming too much salt on a daily basis. And what does that do? It increases our risk of stroke, heart failure, osteoporosis, stomach cancer, kidney disease, kidney stones, enlarged heart muscles, and headaches. I mean, this is what we're doing to ourselves. By eating the processed foods, by eating the fast foods, by now even eating the restaurant foods, and I'll tell you this, guys, if you didn't know this, science is now showing that there are more, sodium is found in higher quantities in restaurant food, sugar is found in higher quantities in restaurant food, additives, preservatives, etc. are found in higher quantities in restaurant food than they are in fast food. So if you think you're safe because you're eating out in a restaurant as opposed to eating fast food, think again. The numbers don't agree with your thought process. So make sure that you know where you're eating, know how it's being prepared. And if you don't know, don't be afraid to ask, because they will go off menu and prepare your food a different way if you ask them to. General takeaway, eat less salt. Just Watch the sodium number on that facts label. Eat less of it. Let's talk about sugars. We have an entire webinar devoted to nothing but sugars. So I'm not going to belittle this point too greatly, but I would encourage you to go back and look at it. But this is one that's this is maddening. I mean, this is absolutely maddening. Yes, this is a Coca-Cola bottle. Yes, it says 39 grams of sugar. Yes, 39 grams of sugar, when you pull out your calculator and do the calculation, means there's 9.75 servings per serving in this particular thing. If you look, the serving size is 12 ounces, and there's 6 12-ounce servings in this particular thing. I don't even know anybody that only drinks 12 ounces of soda anymore. Now it's 20, 24, 42. I mean, it's crazy. But the American Heart Association recommends 9 teaspoons a day for men, 6 teaspoons for women. So if we know that, we know this is 39 grams of sugar, we know it's 9.75 servings, we can do the math, we have our calculator, we know how this works out. How in the world does the daily value percentage get to 78? Now, I want that to set in for a second. Where in the world does that come from? How can anyone say that that's 78% of your daily percentage value when we know that the American Heart Association is recommending less than that amount for men? Not only that, this is almost 50% more than the total intake recommended for women. It's actually more than 50% of the total recommended for men. So be very, very careful when you're reading these labels. If you're going to rely on these percentage of daily values and you're going to rely on the information that's on the label itself, you will fail in your health and wellness goals. You will fail. You have to educate yourself on what these things are. You have to understand what they mean. You have to understand what your intake numbers should be. You can't rely on this. And while we're at this, guys, just so you know, we're talking about the nutritional facts label. Just assume anything that is written on the front of any label. Okay, so everything that you see on the front, light, fat-free, reduced fat, super healthy, pictures of fruits and vegetables. Anything that's on the front was done by a marketing team, not by the scientists, formulators, or nutritionists that actually created the product. So anything on the front, okay, is probably marketing. Be very, very skeptical to what is on the front of the label, okay? As much as you are about what's on the label, the nutritional facts label itself. This is just a prime example. Where the 78% comes from, who knows? But I'm sure it has some basis somewhere. Let's look at something else. This is another pet peeve because this is a direct contributor to the childhood overweight population issues that we have. This is Powerade and Gatorade and the sugar. 24 grams is what's recommended for the teens, tweens. That's roughly 6 servings, same as women. But one Powerade is 28 grams, so more than an entire 100% day recommended value for a child. One Powerade. Gatorade is 56. Even the Gatorade 002, whatever that is 18. I mean, it's insane. Find something better. Find something that doesn't have the sugar, and be very, very careful with these artificial sweeteners because the body doesn't differentiate between real sugar and artificial sweeteners. And in fact, when it has that insulin response, which it will, it does its secondary function when it doesn't find the sugar, which it converts everything in the stomach to fat. So be very careful. And last thing, parents, don't give your kids a Gatorade, Powerade, vitamin water, any of these types of things before a game, during a game, and after a game, which we now see can be as much as 6x plus the amount of sugar that they're having in any given day, and then yell at them because they can't sit down and shut up in the back seat on the drive home. That's a crazy thought process if you really think about it. We are loading them up with sugar and then expecting them to stay quiet as we're trying to get something done. It's just not going to happen. So let's talk about this other wonderful thing. And to me, this is an extreme positive in this new label. It's called added sugars. This number is going to change everything. It really is. And it's a number that you need to be aware of. It's a number that you need to pay attention to. And it's a number you need to make sure that you're looking for on all of these new labels. Because as I showed you in that prior example, it went from 1 gram of sugar to 12 grams of sugar when we put the added sugars and required them to be labeled. So there's also going to be a percentage daily value in there. And I will tell you, some very popular brands are really freaking out right now because when they actually have to reveal how much sugar is really in their product, they're going to have some really upset consumers, and it's coming very soon. So eat less sugar. You're sweet enough already. Trust me when I say that. The average American is now consuming about 33 servings of sugar a day. Trust me when I say you're sweet enough. Don't eat any more of it. Understand where it's coming from. Understand what an added sugar is. Obviously, I didn't go into all of the ways of reading the other ingredients at the bottom of a label to understand and identify what those other sugars could be and what they look like. There's a list of about 33 of them now, I believe. But real soon, you'll be able to have a label that will identify those for you and take all that guesswork out. So, where are we? This is confusing. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, this isn't going to be everything that you need to know about a nutritional facts label. It's not everything you could ever learn. The idea behind today was to wake you up, was to really provide you some just tidbits of information to show you what's actually going on, to actually show you what is happening to us as Americans and what we're allowing to happen, because we're just trusting what we see and what we read, or not even understanding what we read, as we've seen with regard to how things are labeled. We really need to educate ourselves. We really need to get the information we need. This brand new label will help, but this is still a year and a half out. This is still a year and a half out. Yes, the new serving sizes are going to be great and easy to see. The calories, much easier to see. The percentage of value is going to be on the left-hand side because we as Americans read left to right. You're actually now going to get to see the true vitamin content of them. There's other ingredients that previously were on the label that are now being required to be taken off the label. So, when that happens, it doesn't mean the formulas have changed. Most of them will stay the same. It just means this new labeling law now requires you to put some new things on and take some old things off. And then, of course, that added sugars is going to be a big changer. That's going to really, add some real value to the label and show people from a sugar content what we've actually allowed to happen in this country. The reality is we all have nutritional gaps. It's caused by our diet. It's caused by our lifestyle. Even in the idealistic world of the perfect eater, our food supply does not allow us to avoid the nutritional gap. We just need to understand what those are. We need to have a tool. We need to have a resource. We need to have something like, IdeaLife has the ID assessment, where you can take 3 to 5 minutes to find out what your health score is, and then get 6 to 16 pages of information that's just about you that can improve your overall health and wellness, with no mention of any IdeaLife product in there. It's just basically saying, hey, look, you eat processed meats and you have hypertension. Did you know there's a direct correlation between the two, and that by eliminating and reducing your consumption, you can naturally improve your hypertensive state? We have to get better educated. We have to understand these nutritional gaps exist, and we have to stop being idealistic that we can get all of our nutrition from our food supply alone. It just isn't possible. We know that 98% of us in sometime in the next 72 hours are going to get a meal in a bag through a window into our car. We know that because 20% of all meals in the United States are eaten in a car. So understand that this exists. Understand the relationship that is required for healthy living. That requires diet, lifestyle, and nutrition, all three of those. It requires all three to all be in harmony in order to have that healthy living style. Today's program was all about nutritional facts reading. The whole idea behind this was the diet. What you're eating, why you're eating it, what it's doing to you. Most importantly, don't be duped by what you think is the facts. So many people turn over a nutritional facts label, and the only thing that they look at is the calorie content, because all they're doing is counting calories. They don't understand that calorie number should have been multiplied by 8, 9, or in the cracker case, 28. They miss that because they don't understand it, because they've never been taught it. The whole idea behind today was to give you the information so you can make informed choices. You want to learn more about IdeaLife and what we have going? Every Monday night, our CEO does a Facebook Live, same place you are right now, that kind of goes into a little bit more detail about what IdeaLife is, what it's about, and how we do health and wellness. And what I mean by that is we do it a little bit different than others. We start with the individual. We treat each person uniquely, and we know that each person has unique needs and is designed in a particular way, and that there is no one-size-fits-all solution. So I encourage you to plug in Monday nights at 8:30 Central Time to listen to him talk about it. we have this little event that we announced at our big national event that we're going to have. It's called Live It Up Vegas, September 15th through the 17th at Planet Hollywood. We would love to have you there. I mean, who wouldn't love to go to Vegas? I mean, let's be real. And while you're there, learn a little bit about health and wellness. I mean, it's going to be a fun event. It's going to have it's a packed schedule of big time speakers and trainers, and we're really gonna dig in deep and talk about what's going on in this country, why we need to make the change, why we need to be the change, and if you're a parent, why you can't start with your kid, you have to start with yourself. We are going to continue these Wednesday lunch and learns. We're gonna, I've committed to making sure that you have these as a resource. Next week we're gonna try something a little bit different. We're gonna talk about the wearable difference. We're gonna talk about a fitness tracker focused on true fitness. There's so many things out there, so many different choices, and I want to make sure that everyone is well informed with the choices that they're making when they're spending their dollars on these devices, on what they do, what they don't do, what they can help with, and what they can't help with. But most importantly, Garmin just announced a huge partnership with ID Life. In fact, you can go to the Garmin.com website and hear all about it. But that's right. ID Life and Garmin have partnered together because we have a common interest in health and wellness. But not only a common interest, we have a common goal, a common belief system. They have the devices to get you there, and ID Life has the products, information, and tutoring and teachings to get you where you want to go. And it's a beautiful partnership, and I look forward to exploring it more next Wednesday, May 3rd, 11:30, same place, same time. We're going to go into detail, and we're going to differentiate what the market has to offer versus why ID Life chose to partner with Garmin, and some of the things that you may or may not have known about some of the devices that they have and how they work and how they can help you stay on your health and wellness goals. So until next time, I am Mark Bennett on behalf of ID Life, and I appreciate you being a part of the webinar today. Thank you.